everyone and welcome. My name is Miss Liz. Thank you so much for joining today's Tween Lego Club. For today's project, we will be creating a Lego labyrinth. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the word labyrinth, labyrinth basically means a network of pathways and passages that challenge the user to navigate them. So in other words, it's basically just a maze, but I thought labyrinth was a much cooler word. So before we get started in going over our required Lego pieces and the beginning steps of our labyrinth, I want to quickly show you how this labyrinth is actually a workable maze. So in your Lego kits, you should have received a marble that looks just like this. And as you can see, if you take a look at my labyrinth sample, there are two entryways. There's one right here at the top, and there is a second one on the side right here. I did test both entryways by inserting my marble through both ways, and I did find that beginning at the top entryway was slightly easier than beginning at the side entryway, but of course feel free to try both. So if you put your marble at the top of the entryway here and just let it fall down, you can see that it works just like a regular labyrinth. You might just have to move that plate around a little bit so that the marble will actually move. So it might take a couple tries to perfect it, but once you get it on the side, the marble will fall out and you see that it works just like a regular labyrinth or a regular maze. So to get started, let's go over the pieces we have today. So if you registered for this program, you should have received a Lego kit that looks just like this, as well as a Lego base plate that looks just like this. If you did not register for this program, that's totally fine. You are, of course, more than welcome to still join in on the fun. You'll just have to follow along the video and create your own project by using any Lego pieces you might have at home. So let's go over what's inside our Lego kit. So like I just said, you do have your Lego base plate here. This is obviously what we will be using as the base plate of our labyrinth. And then inside your Lego kit, you have a few things. You first have a bookmark that is yours to keep. You will have a Lego kit contents sheet. I thought this was helpful in just making sure you have all of the pieces when it's time to pack up your kits, because as a reminder, all of the Lego pieces here do need to be returned back to the library. You also have a labyrinth maze guide. I thought this was helpful because although I will be showing you the beginning steps and how to create your own labyrinth, I thought it might be helpful to have a visual on hand. That way you kind of know where and how to create the pathways in your labyrinth. And as a reminder, your labyrinth doesn't have to look exactly like mine, but again, I thought it might just be helpful to show you the beginning steps as well as have this visual as a way to get started. Okay, so inside our Lego kit here, you can see that we have various Legos in various sizes. So it might be helpful to familiarize yourself with Lego terminology. That way you can kind of follow along and make sure that you have the correct pieces. So if you didn't know this before, but I'm sure a lot of you probably already do, you can size your Lego by counting the notches here. So for example, this would be a 2x4 Lego because we have 2 columns of notches and each column has 4 notches. So if you hear me say 2x4, obviously I am referring to this one, which has 2 columns and 4 notches in each column. So similarly, if you had a longer piece, then this one would be a 2x6 brick because it has 2 columns with 6 notches in each column. So there's a quick little mini lesson for you. That way you can kind of make sure that you're following along with the correct pieces. So in your kit here, you should have obviously the one base plate. You also will have 2 2x8 bricks, which are the longest ones in your kit. And then you also have the 2 2x6 bricks, which are the ones I just showed you. You also will have 9 2x2 bricks, which are the little square ones. And then you will have 6 2x3 bricks, which are these smaller ones. And then you will have 40 of the 2x4 plates, or I'm sorry, 2x4 bricks, which look just like this. And these are obviously the ones you have the most of. So to get started on your labyrinth, I thought it was easier to start with the longest pieces first. And I use those longest pieces in each corner of the base plate. That way you kind of have a foundation to start with. Of course, you don't have to do it that way. You can use, your own imagination, your own creativity to make your own labyrinth. But again, I thought this was just a little bit easier to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and stick my longer pieces on each corner. So as you can see, I have this one on the top here, and I'm going to stick the other ones on the corners as well. Okay. And so what I did next is I just used my various pieces to make the rest of the borders here. And I just made sure I left an opening on the side here and an opening at the top here. And one important thing to remember is that in order for your marble to fit through the entryways and to fit through the pathways, you have to make sure that you have enough width of 3 notches here. So for example, if you're going to use this area here as an entryway, you wouldn't want to put a brick here because that only leaves you a width of 2 notches, and that's not very wide for the marble to fit through. Of course, it would fit through it, but if it's more narrow, you're going to have a more difficult time navigating that marble. So it might be easier if you put it 3 notches over. That way you have a little bit of a wider area to maneuver your marble. So that's a helpful tip to make sure that you have enough space there for your marble to move through. Another helpful tip is if you're using the guide here, you'll see that there are these kind of shorter little, walls that stick out here. That would be a really great place to use your 2x2s, your smaller pieces, because it might be easiest to use your larger pieces for obviously the borders and then the longer walls here. So, like I said, I only want to show you the beginning steps in creating your labyrinth because I want everyone to use their own creativity and their own imagination to create a labyrinth. So that about wraps up our video for today. So like I said, please feel free to go off your guide here and use this as a visual to create your own labyrinth. If you wanted to make your labyrinth look similar to mine, you can of course just place the pieces in accordance to the picture on your handout here. Or you can use your pieces to create your own labyrinth and create your own maze. So please, please, please post any pictures you might have on our social media so we can all see what kind of mazes you have created at home. We always love to see everyone's creativity. And please make sure to stay tuned for our next Tween Lego Challenge. It will be Halloween themed, so I'm sure we will all have a lot of fun with that. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all very soon. Bye-bye.